Welcome back to the Third Wheel Podcast. I am Caleb.
I'm Shaps.
And we are continuing our discussion on nothing because we haven't started yet.
No.
Weird of me. Guys.
Or is this whole podcast one continuous discussion and we've never really left the studio?
Oh, no. Why would you say that? Because now you got the idea in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a very, I would say, serious topic today. But before we get to that, if you notice the sound could be potentially different, it's because we have switched studios. We're in a new temporary spot as opposed to last time where we were in my living room and everything was a last minute setup. Posted some pictures to social media of what our new setup looks like. And I'm trying to see and gauge how the sound feels. What do you think, Shaps? Sound level sound okay?
I mean, I really don't like being on the street right now. I mean, people looking at us, dude.
I don't know.
Nervous.
That guy's giving us a nice weird look right now.
I don't like that. That's the reason I don't like it.
Sir, I embrace change and I embrace weirdness. Like if he would quit running away from us right now, I would invite him on to be the third wheel. So,
yeah.
But anyway, I want to talk today about Amanda Bynes, and I fully acknowledge that this is kind of potentially a topic that is out of my league or maybe a little bit out of people's comfort zones. As the title implies, the title's probably going to be clickbaity and sound a little mean, but I actually feel quite the opposite because I have no intention of making fun of her, even though she has done a lot of memeable stuff, even though it's easy to take cheap shots at her mental health or her actions. I actually very much feel for her situation. But do you know anything about her? Like, how do you know the extent of how much she's worked in the industry or what she was doing kind of as a kid? Do you know anything about her?
I mean, I took a glance at kind of her portfolio, but I wasn't a follower of her by any means.
Did you know about her when we were younger? Because she's about, let me say, well, she's not our age really, but she was working when we were kids. I remember very vividly that she was working super young for us. You know?
Yeah, maybe. The name really didn't pop out that much, honestly. Are you sure it wasn't a little bit beyond our time? Or after our time?
Let's see. So she started in a bunch of television ads for candy. Nothing we would have eaten. Yeah, I've never once heard one of us say, you remember Brunch Crunch? Nobody, you know what I mean? And then she did a lot of stage work. So she did a stage production of Annie and Sound of Music, stuff like that.
Mm.
Let's see. But she got spotted by Nickelodeon before being cast in the series, all of that. Do you remember all that at all?
No, I never watched it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a bunch of sketch comedy. So that's where Kenan Thompson got famous.
Oh yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I just never actually watched it.
Yeah, so she was in it, and she wasn't the focus, but she did get her own show called The Amanda Show.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. And
didn't really watch it, but I'm aware of that now.
that was from 1990 to 2002. So I was 4 years old, and then it went on for about 3 years.
Yeah, so it was around that time. Okay. Makes sense.
I couldn't watch all that because, it had real people in it. But I remember there was a scene, I think it was where Kenan Thompson, it could be him or Kel, whoever, I forget Kel's last name, but I think his hand got stuck in a toaster. And when he pulled it out, it was it was burned with the weird toaster design on his hand. And it freaked me out because he was freaking out and his hand was cut.
And then you were like, oh my God, turn the TV off.
Yeah.
And never again.
And then after that, they just said no more all that. And so then for a while, anytime I saw Kenan Thompson, I was scared. I was like, is this the scene where he
has a glove on and
yeah.
I see him now? It's like, oh my God.
Is this the one where he turns into a toaster? His hand? So the Amanda Show, you never caught that on TV? Mm-hmm. I remember that whenever Amanda Bynes would play her own stalker. And so it was like a weird nerdy girl, which was Amanda Bynes, but she would hide in dumpsters, and she had this weird fan club website called Amanda Please. She's like, go to www.amandaplease.com. And so when I was a kid, I was like, Mom, take me to amandaplease.com, which would just reroute you to Amanda Show, whatever, or Nickelodeon, whatever.
So was it kind of like a kid's version of a talk show, or was there sketches?
It was very sketch based.
Okay.
And Amanda Show, if I remember correctly, I'm really going off of memory here. I didn't feel like researching and actually watching the Amanda Show as a grown man.
Right.
But as I recall, it was very sketch based. Mm-hmm. She played her own stalker. There was I want to say there's a point where she came out like a talk show where she got up on stage and she was telling jokes, and then she would open what's behind door number 3. I'm very much going off of my old memories when I was like very, very young.
Yeah, Nickelodeon was like hit or miss for us growing up. Like there were some shows we were never allowed to watch just because it's Nick, and then some shows we were like kind of allowed to watch. Like Drake and Josh was on and off. My mom would change her mind every year on whether or not we were allowed to watch it. We were mostly Disney kids, I think, and then Cartoon Network kids. We didn't really hop over to Nick that so often, you know. So
It was very hit or miss whether or not if you were in a Nickelodeon production back then when we were younger. It's very hit or miss whether or not your life either turned out okay or you were a victim of Dan Schneider. Like,
I mean, I would say 90% of them are way more successful in life than most of the Disney cast.
right. You'd say Nick is more successful?
When I say successful, I mean like they didn't freaking get their lives ruined by a corporation.
I'd say it's a tough one.
As much as Disney, dude. Like
Okay, yeah. I see what you mean.
Disney kid stars, dude. Like they were, I mean, look at Miley Cyrus. Just like
Yeah.
absolutely put in the machine, chewed up and spat out. And then like crazy comes out at the end.
I don't know if I agree because, yeah, Miley Cyrus, but maybe. I don't know. I think she just had a wild phase.
Well, I think
then
it
you
was
look at,
because of, well, I actually watched an editorial about this. Essentially, like her wild phase, it was a lot smarter than people gave it credit for. It was essentially to break from the Disney chains. It was essentially to go the complete opposite direction.
Right.
To show everyone that she's not like a Disney puppet anymore. But
Right.
like that, unfortunately, like, well, just like the drastic measures she had to take just to get out of that blanket, a lot of other people didn't have that luxury, you know.
Well, I was gonna say, look at Lindsay Lohan.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, she had to get away from that. She had the very Disney girl image that she had to break from.
Yeah.
And I mean, goodness. But then, you know, now back on Nick's side, you got Amanda Bynes, you got Jeanette McCurdy, you got all these people. But you do have a lot of people that made it, like Ariana Grande and all that kind
I
of
just
stuff.
don't know any tragic Nick stars. I know a lot of Disney tragic Nicks or tragic Disney stars, but
I think you really should look up Amanda Bynes. I think she's a very cautionary tale.
of like the Nickelodeon industry or like anything like does something else kind of influence that part?
I mean, you could just say Hollywood in general, because so when she got through Amanda's show, it doesn't show that she got in with anybody crazy like Dan Schneider, who did hurt a lot of people in his show. You got the guy that created Ren and Stimpy. He was preying on his underage fans, like all sorts of stuff. Like
That's true. That's but that was less Nickelodeon, and that was more of that particular animation studio.
So I get it. You know, I see your point. So 2002. This is gonna be right after Amanda's show. Amanda's show's over. She's in her feature film debut, Big Fat Liar. Do you remember Big Fat Liar?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's a kid. I forget his name. He's a race car driver now, but he's from Agent Cody Banks. I remember Agent Cody Banks.
I love that movie though. That was a funny movie. It still is, I think.
Big Fat Liar. Yeah, I remember that one.
And she's the main
Girl.
She's the lead, yeah, or second.
Yeah,
lead.
Frankie Muniz. That's the kid's name from Big Fat Liar. That movie's kind of heralded as like a classic amongst people our age, and not like for being that great or anything, but it's just very nostalgic, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying classic, but I remember liking it very fondly, and I would still probably watch it today, honestly.
Right. And it also was a commercial success, so she got a Kids' Choice Award back when that meant something.
Nice.
And then, let's see, 2002 to 2006, she was in a sitcom, What I Like About You, positive reviews. She got another Teen Choice Awards. She was getting on Vanity Fair. She was on the cover. Let's see, Charlotte's Web 2, direct-to-video film.
Booyah.
That doesn't surprise me.
I've seen that.
The second one?
Yes.
Please tell me. You're joking.
No, I'm not joking.
Okay.
We had that on VHS.
Okay.
What was it? Oh, yeah, get this. There's a sheep that Wilbur has to look after. And if I'm not, I might be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure the whole deal was that he didn't want to get his wool taken. And so Wilbur was like trying to protect him from getting his wool taken. Yeah, that hit hard, man. Oh, and Charlotte, She had like 3 little babies.
I was going to say, Charlotte at the end of the first one,
Yeah.
spoilers,
Yeah.
has 3 children.
She has 3 little babies, and Wilbur, freaking stupid Wilbur, is like trying his best to describe what their mom was like, but he always he's like an emotional baby. He can't handle telling them about their mom for 5 seconds before he starts keeling over.
I was going to say, me only knowing 8 words would be like, she was very spidery. She had 8 legs.
Okay, genuinely, I know you're joking, but I'm pretty sure that was along the same lines of what he did. Like, literally, I don't think he said spidery, but it's something similar to that.
I want to say that there is legit, not just the movie, there is a legit Spider Charlotte's Web 2, like a book, and it's going the same exact way you're describing.
Yeah.
And I think I actually remember renting Charlotte's Web 2. I want to say it was on like an orange VHS tape. You remember the orange ones?
I remember I remember only one of them. I think it was a Blue's Clues one.
Oh, I remember a bunch of those. Probably Blue's Clues, and then like Rugrats in Paris, stuff like that. Actually, any Nickelodeon one was probably on an orange tape.
You're so right. That's probably true.
Yeah. So anyway, side note.
Amanda Bynes.
This short's going to be titled "Describe Charlotte's Web 2 Poorly."
Hey, I did as best as I possibly could.
No, that's great. I do this all the time. So, okay. Tons of Teen Choice Awards. She's like a Nick star. She's had her own show, which, like, for a kid show that's a reality show in a way, 3 seasons isn't bad, especially when it's totally based around one person and their personality.
Yeah.
So she starred in that comedy She's the Man. Do you know what I'm talking? Have you seen that one? Where she's pretending to be a guy and she's in like some weird, it's either college or high school. I can't remember. Let's see.
I've seen it once.
I actually have not seen it, but it was very well received. Let me see here. Let's see if it made money. It did, barely, but it got mixed reviews. But it made like $7 million.
Which, for a kid's movie, that's like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Actually, I would say that's more so an actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
She was also in Hairspray. I don't think she was the main character.
Well, like the original? Or the
2007.
Okay.
No, not the original. I think that's old.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
So the remake.
The remake, I believe, with John Travolta. She was in that. Okay. Let's see. She was also a good singer for sure.
So she's already like stepping out of like the Nickelodeon shadow. Okay.
She started on Fashion Line with a company called Stephen Barry's. However, Stephen Barry's filed for bankruptcy in 2008. So after the movie Hairspray, she's like,
no more berries.
No, she's like on it. Like she's like starting a fashion line, which is what she ends up going to school for. Okay, I know we're kind of going through a complicated history here. Point is, she's on top of her game.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I'm trying to see if anything else. She's in the movie Easy A. She dropped out. Have you seen the movie Hall Pass? I want to say it has Owen Wilson in it. It does have Owen Wilson.
Hall Pass? No.
So that came out in 2011. I want to say I was in 10th grade, and I was hanging out with a group of friends of mine. We just got done with a football game, and then we went out to eat, and it was my first time actually like in a group of friends, and we're out going around the town in a way. And then we were supposed to go see Hall Pass, but then my parents said, "No, you have a bedtime. Come home." I was like, "Oh," and then they had to drive me home.
No Hall Pass.
But she was supposed to be in that movie, and she dropped out, and that's when people started noticing things. It says that she pulled out of the movie because, let me see here. I think that's when she admitted she had a drug problem. So she had a drug problem that she would not admit to. She was doing drugs, and then she'd hop on Twitter and say, "I've never done drugs my entire life." She still had that image to stick to, but then she'd be on social media clearly doing drugs, and then she got arrested for DWI, and then she'd get on Twitter and say, like, I'm going to sue the police because I was not drinking when I was pulled over and arrested. So it was a big deal. She wouldn't admit that she had a drinking problem and a drug problem.
Right.
So 2010, she announced she's going to be on an indefinite hiatus from acting. So she basically said she's retiring at like 24 years old. She's super young. And then 2018, after several rehabs, several arrests, she's like, I might want to return to acting around 2018. She was going to reunite with some former cast members from All That at the 90s Con in March of last year, 2023. It would have been her first public appearance since some conservatorship issues with her parents. She didn't show up And so she had an on and off history of going into rehab, getting arrested, and all that type of stuff. She started going to fashion school, and she got her associate's degree, and then she went on to get her bachelor's degree. Now, I simplified it, but she had stopped going to school and going to school several times. I'm kind of butchering because I researched it a lot, but I guess I should have put together a nice chalkboard here of her complicated timeline. Mm-hmm. So she started fashion school. I want to say after one of her rehabs, she got her associates eventually, and then I want to say she dropped out, but then she went back and got her bachelor's. She started getting arrested for several drug problems, several drinking and driving, several public intoxication, stuff like that. Stuff, maybe not those exact charges, but the stuff like that. And then she started accusing her parents of doing stuff to her, a lot of abuse, either emotionally or sexually. But none of that was proven necessarily. So let me give you something that she started doing. So 2012, she was charged with driving under the influence. 2 years later, the charge was dropped and she received a 3-year probation. So it looks like she took a plea deal. May 2013, she was charged with reckless endangerment and marijuana possession as she was found smoking in the lobby of her Manhattan apartment building. When officers entered her 36th floor apartment, she allegedly threw a bong out the window. So a lot of really unhinged behavior. The New York County judge dismissed the case against her in 2014. And let's see. In July 2013, in Ventura County, California, sheriff's deputies detained her after she was allegedly started a small fire in the driveway of a stranger in Thousand Oaks. She was hospitalized under the 72-hour mental health evaluation hold, so they put her in like a little mental home for about 72 hours. Then her parents tried to file for conservatorship on her. That's when she started making stuff up about it. She accused her father of a whole bunch of stuff in October 2014. Let's see. Her parents protested and claimed innocence. Okay, and then eventually she backed up on the claims that her father was abusing her, but she said that her father never abused her, but the microchip in her brain made her say those things.
Oh boy.
But her dad's the one that ordered them to microchip me. So she started like, okay, he didn't actually abuse me, but he ordered microchip be put in my head, so I would say those things. Okay, so her parents are trying to get her help, and she's fighting it. She doesn't want help. She starts making stuff up. And then on top of that, she starts making more stuff up. Eventually, she gets diagnosed with bipolar. Okay, and then 2018, she said she's been sober for 4 years. Her parents had helped her clean up. And then she started apologizing. She's like, I'm really ashamed and embarrassed with the things I said. I can't turn back time, but if I could, I would. I'm so sorry to whoever I hurt and whoever I lied about because it truly eats away at me. She put a lot of that on her substance abuse. So a lot of drugs that she had been abusing at the time is kind of what led to it. I can't say I disagree. I'm not quite sure when that stuff happened because up until then, in the little documentary I was watching, she had held it together really good. She had a very nice girl image, and then just, I want to say almost overnight, she just started going kind of bonkers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like typically what happens like with those people is that they meet people who have those connections through their stardom. Yeah, it's kind of always hard to pinpoint where that starts unless they're the ones who come forward with that information.
Right. And she had such a promising career up until then. Hall pass is when she dropped out and was like, yeah, I'm too crazy on drugs. Like she finally admitted she had a problem. Before that, she's like killing it. She's having success after success. Even the stuff that didn't do quite well critically was still making a lot of money. So she was on top of her game.
And she got through college.
Yeah. And so what I want to highlight here is she made several attempts to get her life better. And I'm noticing a pattern of like, I'm going to go to fashion school. She finished partially, got her associates, and then dropped out, but then went back and finished, got her bachelor's, and then she's going to rehab. She's getting better. She's staying sober for 4 years, but then she's like kind of relapsing and then kind of going back on that. There's several quality attempts here to get help, and that's why I'm very hesitant to just start kind of like making fun of her, because I see a pattern of her trying to get better, and I doubt she'd ever listen to this, but someone who is seeking help and then they keep hitting a low point, it just kind of feels weird to get on here and just start kicking her kind of while she's down. Because even like I said, she'll never see this, right? But at the same time, I just really think it would be very insensitive of me to kind of poke fun at somebody who is actively trying, at least maybe not right this second, but who is actively trying to better themselves and kind of realize that they have a problem and seek help, but keep failing. And I think there's a little bit of honor to that, or a little bit of respect I can give to someone who is attempting to fix their mental problems or substance abuse problems, but fail. You know what I mean?
Is there a situation currently where she's being bullied, she's being made fun of, like, by the masses, or like, what's sparking this conversation?
Well, that's a good point. I noticed, I read an article that she started a podcast, and she actually had abandoned it after one episode. And that's what kind of perked my interest. At first, I was like, oh, Amanda Bynes, you're being crazy again. But then I started kind of digging into this, and I was like, my goodness, like, you know, there's more to this. So I did actually end up watching that episode. Let me see. I actually watched it this morning, so I could kind of have a more fresh perspective here. So let's see. Do you know who Paul Szymanski is?
It sounds familiar.
I'm not very familiar with him, but they started a podcast called Amanda Bynes and Paul Szymanski, the podcast. And the first episode, she gets a tattoo artist and model. Her name's Dahlia Moth. I've not looked at her work, but I watched the interview, and it was the podcast wasn't that bad. I will say Amanda Bynes didn't look quite as interested as you would think for a show with her name first on it. And it's basically, the show is just called Amanda Bynes and Paul Szymanski, the podcast. So they didn't try to go creative with the title. They were kind of just relying on star power. I don't quite know who Paul Szymanski is, but I kind of figure he sounds important. But let me pull up the reason why she canceled this show. Okay, so here on People Magazine.
I gave up trying to find Paul Szymanski.
Oh, really? It's not popping up?
It's like, yeah.
Okay. So she posted her first episode. She says after it airs, she says it's going to be on hiatus, which was kind of weird to me, honestly, because for me, I was like, I'm going to see how this goes and just start posting stuff, and I'm putting a lot of work into it. But she says, even though the podcast is doing really well and the response has been great, I'm going to take a pause on it for now.
Yeah, that's a little odd. And you'd think that with that production quality, I'm assuming there's a good amount of production quality.
Yeah, it wouldn't bad.
They would record multiple episodes already.
Right. So she says, we're not able to get the type of guests that I'd like on the show, like, say, Jack Harlow or Drake or Post Malone. So she was really just kind of hoping that she would have these really high top tier guests.
I don't see that happening.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I could see Post Malone getting on there because he's such a sweet guy. She says, so maybe one day if we're able to get those types of guests on the show.
And look, Keanu Reeves.
We will resume the podcast. But for now, I'm taking a pause on it. So what was your immediate reaction to, like, okay, she's not going to get those type of guests? That was, I didn't finish reading, and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's not happening.
Just like Drake. I mean, come on.
Right. But that's what struck a chord with me.
Those are, like, you can't go much higher than that, you know,
Right.
like, especially even Post Malone. Like, hey, he's a nice guy, but, like, still, like,
Right.
that's top tier. Like, you gotta start a little smaller, like a little more
you.
realistic than this.
And that's
You gotta start a little smaller than that.
That's what struck a chord with me, was because I was sitting here like, I think she kind of just went into it with the wrong intentions, where she just thought, like, because she's famous, she's just going to be, it's going to be a famous person only podcast. So her first guest, I mean, really cool person. I'm not trashing the show. I'm not trashing the guest she had on it. Dahlia Moth, like a tattoo artist, really cool. It was a decent, but like you could tell Amanda Bynes had a lack of experience in interviewing, so she kept trying to go off of the 10 pre-scheduled questions that she had, and they were very generic. It wasn't like, so tell me about your work as a tattoo artist. What got you? She's like, so tell me about your career and what got you into this career. And I was like, Amanda,
honey.
But Paul Szymanski, did I get that right? There's Paul, right?
Yeah.
Paul Szymanski comes in, and he's talkative. He's asking questions. He's asking the right questions. When he'd ask a question, he would press forward with that mode of conversation. Whereas Amanda Bynes looked a little bit out of her element. But I mean, granted, like, that was the first show, and she started with a guest and with that's not easy. I know how that works. But that struck a chord with me when I first read that article. Was like, she went into it thinking like, okay, I'm gonna have all these really famous people on, and everyone's gonna care about what I have to say. And you know what, that's fine. That, like, we're doing the same thing. You know, we're going in with like, okay, people are gonna care what we have to say. You know, But to cancel it after one episode, that really struck a chord with me. And then her reasoning being like, well, we didn't get any famous people like I was hoping. You know, that struck a chord with me because of the differences between why I started my show and then potentially why she started hers. I don't think she went into it hoping for this to be a creative outlet for her to be able to express herself creatively, to potentially find a way with which she can use a hobby to kind of work through some of the emotional problems she might be dealing with. Because she very recently got out of rehab and then she was found not wearing any clothes on the street. I want to say of California, you know, very, very recently. So then she got pushed back into another rehab and now she's going to another program. Again, she's expressing her commitment to getting better, where she's following up and going to these programs outside of a full-on rehab, and she's seeing people to get better, you know. And so when I saw that she was doing a podcast, and she canceled it after one episode, I felt really bad, and I was like, I think she should have stuck with it, and I would have really liked to see her, you know, kind of use that platform, especially with her having a built-in like, you know, fan base in a way where people are wanting to encourage her, wanting her to do better as well. I'm not the only one. I'm just a random guy.
Sure.
I'm sure there's tons of people that want her to get better. And I was very discouraged for her that she kind of went into this, what we're doing, with the mindset of just like, it's just going to be famous and it's going to be big and people are going to hop on.
I think that's exactly it. Like, I don't think, like, her intentions were wrong.
Yeah.
It seems like, and typically, if that was her only motivation, I don't see her continuing it. It was probably just like a one and gun thing.
Yeah.
And like, she doesn't have that kind of pull in Hollywood. She never really got to that point. Maybe with like co-stars, but never like anything above that.
Right.
And also, celebrities have to look after their own image. Their agents are not going to let them go on the Amanda Bynes podcast with her track record.
Absolutely. I mean, because I was watching it, I was like, you know, it got some good praise, but at the same time, it was Paul Szymanski was doing most of the work.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, she had her pre-picked questions, which I think she could have improved on. It almost felt like she typed it in Chat GPT, and she just kind of was going with that. Because her face the whole time, and I haven't watched a ton of Amanda Bynes interviews to know like how she talks and if she smiles or not. But her face was very serious, and it looked like she was a little bit out of her element because Paul Szymanski was doing most of the work, carrying the conversation, and he was getting into it. He was being expressive. He was doing the body language. He was doing the laughing and the smiling. And then when he heard something he liked, he pressed into that line of questioning or that like conversation. Whereas her, whenever she heard an awkward pause, like I do sometimes when I hear an awkward pause, that's my cue to step in and be funny again. Whereas with her, she would freak out and go back to another very generic question. And it was interesting. I was watching her body language, and she just felt very uncomfortable. She hated anytime there's awkward silence. She's like, "Okay, quick, next question."
I wonder if she would have been done better with audio.
Right? Yeah, because she did video too, obviously, and I don't think she's editing her own stuff though.
No, I mean like just audio only.
Right.
So like, I wonder if she would have done better with that, because you know, like that can actually taint someone's image as well. If there's like video behind it, you know, then you can see like all the things that they're not like thinking about. She's not in front of a script anymore. She's just like herself.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the one running this show. This is the first time that she's probably been heading a project.
That is true.
And for it to be like sort of a live-ish setting, like that's tough. Not for everyone, and it takes a lot of practice, definitely, to even get into that field.
Yeah.
Much less, like it's less than, I mean, for us it's a hobby, but like for someone she's putting money into it, she wants it to be like successful. That takes practice, that takes knowledge, that takes like a lot of planning.
Absolutely.
That we're not even capable of yet. You know, like it's a lot. It's a, you know, she probably went into it because it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to start up.
Absolutely.
But it takes a lot of work and a lot of just focus, I think, to make it successful.
Right. And like there's
patience as well.
Yeah, there's not an inherent, like as soon as you start running your mouth on a microphone that you're about to just get a ton of views, you're about to get famous. She had a better start than most people. Like she I didn't look at her YouTube numbers. I listened on Spotify, but if I were to look, like she probably got a decent amount of listeners, like probably more than we've all gotten, with a lot of our videos combined.
Yeah.
But that's not where she was kind of trying to go with it. I guess like we said, she was trying to go for straight. It's going to be, everyone's going to listen. We're going to have a very respectable guest list and that type of stuff. I really would have liked to see, because she has a history of starting projects and then kind of backing away from them. Now, she went to fashion school a couple times and she did finish. But then you got like, okay, so she starts this podcast and I'm sitting here like, this for me is very good at helping me express myself creatively or working to get topics together and stuff like that. Like it really stretches me. And then I got to hear myself talk and I got to edit things out. I got to keep things in. I get to be creative and figure out what needs to be cut, what needs to stay, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I think if she had stuck with it and done it from that mindset, I think she actually would have had something that keeps her occupied. Because I think a really big part of it is like she'll get sober, but then she'll get bored. And when she's in that level of boredom, she kind of like chooses to relapse in a way. And there's more that goes into it. Like being hooked on drugs and relapsing, that there's more that goes into it than just like, I'm bored, I'm gonna choose to relapse again. I know that. I'm not trying to be naive here and say like there's one thing she's doing wrong, or it's an illness. Like maybe there's nothing she is doing wrong. Maybe she has serious withdrawals. Maybe when she's not doing drugs, she has very crazy mental stuff. Like, hey, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I think if she had started this show, it would have been a very helpful way to help her cope with a lot of stuff she's doing. Because it is for me. I know everyone's different.
Yeah, I would say on the air of caution.
Yeah.
And I know this is much easier said than done. For people in her situation, I don't think stardom is healthy.
Yeah.
I don't think the attention is what she needs.
Right.
I think it's what she wants and what she craves, but I don't think it's what she needs at all. She went to fashion school and completed it. Like you have success right there. Like you can find success right there.
Absolutely.
But something's pulling her back to like, the limelight. And obviously, given her track record, it's never led to a healthy place. Yeah. At least for very long. And I don't think it would help at all. Like if she came at it with a more like humble attitude, like, hey, this is just like a side hobby. Like, didn't put a whole bunch of money behind it, didn't have a huge production, like what we're doing right now. Yeah, I think she'd find a lot more success and she'd be a lot happier.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to be like another big thing, like trying to make this the next step in her life, her career. Like, don't make it a career goal. Just make it something that you want to do.
Right. Think about the Office Ladies podcast. Have you seen that one? Mm-mm. So the Jenna Fisher and have you seen The Office? Yeah. Okay. The girl that plays Pam and the girl that plays Angela, they started a podcast. And they didn't start it with like every weekend we're going to have John Krasinski on. Right. We're going to have the guy that plays Kevin. Like it wasn't like that. It was just them two. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, we're going to go through every episode and kind of talk about behind the scenes. And we're going to talk about what we've been doing since then. Mm-hmm. And like they're just having fun. And like, I mean, and then when they can, they have, guest actors on, Rainn Wilson, people that have been on the show. It wouldn't surprise me if they finally got Steve Carell by now. Yeah. I haven't been watching it, but like it's a great idea and I like it. The same thing with Ned's Declassified. Have you seen that they're doing a podcast? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's going really well too. And it was just like they're just trying to have fun. They didn't go into it like every episode we're gonna have a big guest. Like they're just going with what they can, and then when they can add a guest, they do. And that's kind of what we've been doing too. It's like obviously, I was never like, okay, we start a podcast. I can't wait to have Drake on it.
Post Malone. Yeah. To start small with Post Malone.
Yeah, I actually think we could. There's a chance we could do that one day.
No, I believe it or not, I actually know someone who used to play with Post Malone in high school. Yeah. So I'm like, it's a connection.
I think it's possible. It's not that far. Yeah, he didn't grow up too far from here. Is all I'm saying.
He worked at that Chicken Express just down the street.
I'm just saying. Like it's possible. Mm-hmm. Hey, did you know this is like a side topic. I guess we can step away from Amanda Bynes stuff. Did you see that he opened up a Raising Cane's basically based in his image?
Yeah, I saw that. Does he own Raising Cane's? No. What's the deal?
But they probably just teamed up with him to franchise that because
like legitimately, I don't get like it's a partnership, right? But like why is Raising Cane's like literally the temple of Post Malone now?
I don't know. Because they started with the cups, which I have all, I have all 5 of them, by the way.
Which is like, okay, great idea. You get, like that's literally genius, right? Yeah. And then like I saw that building that Raising Cane's you're talking about, and it's literally like a shrine, a temple to Post Malone.
Straight up.
Like
I will admit,
They probably only play his music, like, legitimately.
No, they actually don't. I actually didn't hear a single Post Malone song.
What?
I was surprised.
Heresy.
That was weird. I will say I walked in expecting, Better Now to be playing.
Or Butterfly.
Yeah, and then Sunflower, one of them, I come in, no, not a single song. It was all songs that I wouldn't have thought would be in a Post Malone themed Raising Cane's. But I will say the scenery was very much worth it. The drive-through is very lit up.
I love that neon blue.
Oh, it's so good. So you've been?
I've seen it. I mean, like, I've never been, but like, that's sick look, especially for Raising Cane's.
They had a very soft opening. So, he attended the opening, but
Really?
yeah. And he was like working the drive through.
No.
But they didn't announce it because if they did, can you imagine how packed that Raising Cane's would be?
Oh, that's
miles and miles back.
How are you not there for the soft opening?
I didn't know it was opening.
Oh.
That's how soft it was.
A little whoopee cushion.
If I could go back in time and I was like, okay, and like, I'm 5 years old and I
Yeah.
knew that in 13 years, I'm sorry, 23 years.
Wow.
If I knew it 23 years from when I was 5, when they would open that Cane's, I would be sure.
God. I could see you like looping that drive through over and over and over.
I would loop it while it's under construction. Be like,
is he here yet? Is he here yet?
Yeah. Did I tell you? Actually, I did. I know we did. We talked about it on the show where I was at the George Bush Museum when they opened and he showed up. So
and
it makes
he freaking put you in your place.
Incorrectly.
And then all the kids cheered for him and you were like
I'm bitter.
I love that. That's one of my favorite stories you have.
I'm gonna be
You're freaking bullied by the president.
former president. Okay. He wasn't cool enough to get a third term because those aren't allowed.
He didn't enact martial law like smart guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Watchmen, they got Nixon for 6 terms or something. So, I think I will forever be enemies with George W. Bush
for the weirdest reasons.
Yeah,
the most specific reasons.
Yeah, no, like he tried to upstate. Like I'm almost never wrong, guys. And in that instance, I for sure was not wrong. And
how old were you? 10 or something?
No, I was almost 18, if not 18 by then.
Still, the fact that he's like,
yeah.
Oh, I need
dumb kid.
I need to look cool in front of these kids.
I bet you if I were to solve a Scooby-Doo mystery and I pulled the mask off, it would be President Bush.
Oh, I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you and your squiddy tattoos.
Yeah. I'd be like, do you remember me? No. Well, you should. 20 years ago. Actually, I'm sorry, 10. My math is off today.
My gosh.
Yeah,
dude.
my math is just way off. But yeah. So yeah. Good date night option because you go into that Raising Cane's and there's tons of really cool stuff in there. So on the way up there, my girlfriend's like, I got a surprise for you. And we're driving and I'm trying to guess. And I kind of recognize the area, but I also kind of don't. And so then I start jokingly, oh, look, we're at Denny's. Ha, 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 as we drive by a Denny's. And then we see that Cane's. I didn't know it was a Post Malone themed Cane's. I didn't know it existed. It's very blue.
Right.
It's very neon Cowboys blue.
Opposite of what Raising Cane's looks
exactly.
like.
So we get there. I was like, you took me all this way, jokingly, to see a blue Raising Cane's. And then she's like, yes, hole. And I was like, oh. And then we get there and it's Post Malone themed. I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's like, okay, babe, thank you. I'm so sorry I was jokingly making fun of you. But no, it was it was great. I loved it.
I would have been happy with a blue Raising Cane. That's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't think that was it. I think I was playing the joke where oh, look, we're at McDonald's. Haha, good one, babe. But no, it turns out it was blue Raising Cane's.
That's epic.
But we got there.
Oh, Mr. Malone.
Yeah, and it was very cool. All my pictures are on Instagram for people that know me personally. And it was great. And I was like, best girlfriend ever.
Sidebar, there's a Mongolian grill I go to quite frequently. And I go with my work buddies, and whenever we go, the same work buddy points out every single time, oh, Post Malone ain't here. And there's a picture of Post Malone in the back. I'm just like, gosh. Is that just like the magnum opus if you open a restaurant?
Pretty
you get Post Malone there, and then you're just known as that place. Oh, that place must be great if Post Malone ate there once when he had I don't know.
Do you know how many people are coming out of the woodwork saying that they taught him in class or they sat next to him in gym? Yeah. Everyone and their mom went to school with Post Malone. If you live in Texas and you live near the Grapevine area,
I lost my virginity to Post Malone. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah, I bet you did, Grandma. So, did you see that drama he had when he went on that podcast? I forget, Charlemagne. I think that's the guy's name.
Mm-mm.
I think that's his name. I do apologize, audience, but the guy was clearly jealous of him, so he got on there and he's like, "What are you doing for the Black Lives Matter movement?"
Oh,
and then
jeez.
and then he's like, I'm not sure, and he's Post Malone's a real sweet guy. He's like, I don't know. I mean, I support them, and the guy's like, you could just say nothing. You could just say you're not doing it at all. And then he just kept like trying to make him look bad. He kept trying to be like, is that your girlfriend? Well, he's gonna cheat on you, right? All the options that he had.
What?
Yeah, oh yeah. Like he was
Why
going.
do people freaking bully him? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like
he was going to town on him.
there was I saw this one video where like he's like shaking hands with a bunch of fans in like a crowd, and like one dude randomly says, "You suck, Post Malone," and then he stops. He looks with like a genuinely hurt face.
Dang.
Not like you have to see this video later.
Yeah.
Not like most celebrities where they just kind of blow him off. Like he literally stops and he like goes for like 5 seconds. He says, "That's so hurtful, man." And I'm like, oh my God.
I bet you that guy got beat up.
Oh, honestly, yeah. They were like, "You suck, you." No, but like, very genuine dude.
Yeah.
Love Post Malone. Love his music.
He's a very sweet guy too, because like I saw a video where he went up to a kid who was disabled, and he was just being real sweet to him. He didn't, he treated him real nice, and it was just cute. I was like, dang, dude. He seems like a really cool guy. He's one of the few celebrities I'd like to meet in real life and just hang out with.
Him and Keanu Reeves need to start a podcast.
Cancel it after one episode. Checks into rehab.
He's like, "Sorry, man. We wanted to get freaking President Bush on here. He's not responding."
Well, I picture him getting on and be like, wow, I wanted to get Post Malone on here, but we just couldn't do it. And it's him. He's announcing he couldn't get it.
That's funny.
I couldn't get Drake.
I don't think he has any beef with anyone, but that'd be funny if he had like beef with someone. He was like, "I'll try to get this guy on there.
Yeah.
I want to apologize to him."
That would be hilarious. All right, let me see real quick. Did you see that 3-year Life at Sea cruise? Did you see that they canceled it? It was supposed to be like all access, 3 years you're on a cruise.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. They never had a boat to begin with.
Oh.
They promised a 3-year 3-year cruise, and they had made these promises, and they sold tickets, and they did all that, thinking that by then they'd have won the bid on a boat, and they didn't. So the dream is over for passengers who'd signed up for Life at Sea Cruises' inaugural 3-year voyage. After weeks of silence, which was always a great, the companies acknowledged that passengers...
Was it on a freaking Kickstarter?
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, or did they just like crowdfund this? The company has acknowledged passengers that it has no ship and has canceled the departure, vowing to refund those who signed up.
They were landlubbers the entire time.
I want to know if they actually refunded people. I need to look that up.
Dude, that's the same story as like the Titanic 2, the guy who tried to make the Titanic 2.
Oh, really? What happened with that?
Oh, so like Titanic 2 has always been like this big thing. Like people have been trying, like either the Chinese government, not joking, the Chinese government's trying to make it, or this dude, this rich British dude, he like basically... I think it was like a documentary. He was like, I'm going to make the Titanic 2. And he was pouring like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into it. And then it just like never went anywhere. But he made a big deal. Like, you got to believe in me. You got to trust me. It's really going to happen. It just died.
Oh, I definitely believe you, sir. I definitely think you're not crazy.
Oh, man. But so we want to put you on a boat for dude, who would want to be on a boat?
Some people
3
retire
years.
On a cruise line, and I'm not sure I quite understand.
Okay, like there are some men who go out, and women, I guess, mostly men, I think. Sorry.
Very single men in their 30s, late 30s.
Who go, yes, actually, who go out to sea for like, I don't know, 8 months or something to maybe multiple years to fish, and they come back and they're like, my God, that was the tour of a lifetime. I almost died, like. Who wants to be on a boat for like 3 freaking years? And how would you not get sick and tired? And I'm assuming it would stop every once in a while. Like you would have to stop for supplies. And
yeah. I mean, they stop at like, if you take one in the Bahamas, they'll stop on islands and stuff. And then
but like,
just like
what about
tourist
family?
attractions.
Friends and family.
Yeah.
Like you just have
to.
to.
How do you visit them?
Do you have to airdrop them in? Like.
So let's see. Some of the passengers who booked the 111 cabins sold are still in Istanbul because it was going to depart from Istanbul, Turkey. So they made their way to Istanbul and then they canceled it. And
Sounds like they retired in Istanbul.
I know, right? So
what were they going to fund? How are they going to fund it?
Others say they have nowhere to return to, having sold or rented out their homes in anticipation of the round-the-world voyage, as well as jetsoning their possessions. Most have spent tens of thousands of dollars on what was meant to be the experience of a lifetime.
Yep. Pre-ordered.
Yep.
Pre-order
Yeah, they pulled a GameStop on them.
What was the pre-order bonus? A canvas bag.
That's terrible. Let's see. All right, so the company now, I don't understand how they're going to do this, and like I'm glad they are. I'm glad they're giving them their money back. I'm glad it's not a Logan Paul scam.
scheme.
Yep. Thank you. We can talk about that someday, but I don't want to. I mean, we're just going to be ripping.
No,
off.
let's not jump on the bandwagon.
I was going to say we're just going to be ripping off CoffeeZilla's videos. So
Right.
I mean, that's who I'd watch to get the info from.
Yeah.
So
Hashtag.
they face a wait of at least several months to get their money back. The company said it will make repayments in monthly installments. That's nice. That's better than I would have expected. Starting from mid-December and completing repayments in late February. That's not bad.
Yeah, getting paid for sitting there.
2 months. So, and they offered to pay for accommodations.
Nice.
To send people home who are stranded. Some people say they have no home to return to.
Nice.
Let's see. Some need their refund, even a plan of place to go. So it's not good right now. Let's see. Okay, Life at Sea Cruises has been planning to buy the Adara, a ship retired this summer by Ada Cruises, a German subsidiary of Carnival Corp. It was due to be rechristened as the MV Lara, so they were going to buy a used boat and rename it. The company had originally slated the sale to go through by the end of September while working on the ship in dry dock in Germany. Blah, 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 blah. After 6 weeks of uncertainty during which the Life at Sea repeatedly told guests that the sale was taking longer than planned, on November 16th, they had announced. Celestial Cruises announced they had bought the Adiara. So a day later, Life at Sea's former CEO, Kendra Holmes, who resigned days earlier, said she was not speaking. So they had lost the bid.
She retired on a cruise somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. And say probably on the boat that got sold to the other one.
Right.
So they told people it was taking longer, and I guess the other cruise line had bought it because they made a better deal. So let's see.
But when your entire company relies on one bid, oof.
Declaring himself extremely sorry. So the owner of Murray Cruises, which owns Life at Sea, declaring himself extremely sorry for the inconvenience. I'm so sorry if this put you out of your way.
Hey guys, our bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can trust us again with our 3-year airliner that we're about to purchase. Thank you. What's that? You can't get home. Oh no.
That sucks. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I know you sold your house, okay, and pre-bought.
That's not on us. You took the risk. We didn't tell you to take the risk.
I knew you pre-ordered to play Shang Tsung, but alas. So let's see. They made the down payment, but it says also the Israel thing going on right now. It also kind of hurt negotiations. So while Israel is being attacked, we're like, okay, but what about our boat?
The Taliban took it. They're on a pleasure cruise right now.
Got the tally. All right, so yeah, I mean.
Oh, they would too. Wouldn't that be awesome if the Taliban had a freaking cruise ship as their headquarters?
See, that kind of sucks, but at the same time, I don't think I feel too bad for them.
I mean,
do you think it was a bunch of rich people that are kind of getting what they deserved? Disappointment.
I'm the type of person, I hate the whole pessimistic, rich people got what they deserve kind of thing for spending money. I don't ever revel in people's misery, or I try not to revel in people's misery. Those are people with their hard-earned money. For the most part, hard-earned money, and they spent it on a bad decision. Who hasn't spent money on a bad decision? They just spent it on a much larger scale. And
I would confidently say I've never wasted a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
Not even once.
Not even once. Well, good
even
for you, man.
when I dropped the penny, I bent over and I picked it back up.
Good for you, man. Good for you. I dropped a penny into a street performer's hat, and I had to pull it out. I pulled it right.
Sorry, this is a waste. What's that? You're hungry?
Oof. Sorry,
yeah,
man.
hey.
I've never made a bad decision. I'm never gonna start.
I'm not starting today. Gosh dang it.
But here's the thing: every freaking, I feel like a lot of people would be in the same situation if they had said money. It's hard. It's easy to dehumanize and to poke fun at people. Hey, lack of common sense exists everywhere. In all forms, all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Now, like,
No, go
yeah,
ahead.
they made a bad decision, and this is the consequence of it because, yeah, like, it's way too good to be true. Or maybe, you know, it was pitched very believably, and like everyone had full confidence. You know, things do happen. Like, who knows? But yeah, it is sad. You know, like how some people legitimately gave up their homes for this particular dream. You know, it's like,
Right.
yeah,
Because it's not an easy. They sold their house.
right,
You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, we're gonna pay for this 3-year like that does kind of suck.
yeah,
You know, so like a lot of them, it's not because they were rich a-holes. It was
Mhm.
because they were like, okay, this sounds great, you know, and like we'll just remortgage our home, we'll sell it, and then it'll pay for the trip, and for the next 3 years we're covered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, dumb decision. I still think that's crazy, but at the same time, it just seemed like such a sure thing.
Unless
You
it's
know.
illegal, I really don't really fault people for what they spend their money on.
Right.
It's their money.
Right.
I'm not like I'm not the type of person like, well, you should have spent it on charity. I'm just like, well, let's look at your bank account and see where all your money's going to. You know,
I
like,
hate those people. I cannot stand those people that are like, how come you're not spending it on the poor?
I know someone who's like, every single time we talk about movie numbers, they're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, 40 million for a movie. How could that not go to some charity somewhere where there's hungry people over the world? I'm just like, yeah, well,
Well, I was gonna say, I won't take away from the fact that, you know, a movie like The Marvels was a waste of money. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I was like $300 million.
But it's par for the course. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, well, if that money didn't go to that movie, it'd go to something else. You know,
Right,
like,
something equally as stupid. It is Disney after all.
right.
But I'm with you. I don't like those mindsets where everyone's like, okay, why don't you make millions of dollars, then you can give it all to the poor.
Yeah, see what you do with it.
Yeah.
You know, like, everyone wants to be a Mr. Beast, but they never, you know, like, think about that. You know, once they hit the lottery, or if they ever hit the lottery, they're like, they usually lose it immediately because they don't know how to invest it properly. Or they just spend it on stupid stuff as well. You know, like, very rarely is it all unless they're like super old and retiring, you know, typically it doesn't really hit, you know, the big margins that they're talking about.
What's the newest thing Mr. Beast did that made people upset?
I think the latest thing was just the blind children, but that was a while ago.
No, that was a long time ago. I know he went to another country and built a bunch of wells.
Oh yeah,
And that made people mad too.
That's right.
And I'm just like, what is up with you people? Like I haven't seen you grab a
they
shovel.
start digging up those wells. They're like, "This is what you need to be doing." It's just
But that's what he did
in front of a no, but like they're actually covering them back up in front of a crying child. Like, this is what
Yeah,
you need to be doing,
yeah.
Mr. Beast.
Put child in hole.
Oh man.
But
Oh, speaking of Disney, so I heard that apparently their latest financial report is that this year, I mean, their financial report for this year, I guess, hasn't come out yet, but essentially their stocks have gone from like, I think it was like $2.99 a share down to like $88 a share
oh no.
this year, which is like shocking.
Are you telling me it's a good time to buy into Disney stock?
Great time.
Or is it gonna go
Don't
down
you see
more?
all the horizon, like everything they
Right.
have on the horizon? I have a question. Do you think that now a lot of people like to think that Disney is unbeatable and like it'll always be there, but like I mean, we've seen companies, you know, overconfident companies that like we never thought would ever go out of business. Like, do you ever think that Disney would go under? Can go under? Because again, there is not one part of Disney right now that's doing well.
Right.
Their streaming services are not doing well. Their parks are not doing well. Their movies are not doing well. Their ESPN's not doing well. Like, literally is money pit after money pit after money pit. Like,
Yeah.
nothing's doing well for this long. Like, and obviously their CEO isn't. There's a lot of political uproar and infighting in the Disney board essentially right now.
Right.
There's like a civil war going on right now.
Mm.
Like this, I mean, I know Disney's been through rough patches before, like really bad rough patches. And typically the way they get themselves out of that is that they buy another creative company and creative asset to make them stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, they've pretty much bought everyone. So
Right.
it's like, what other choice they have to eventually be bought up by, I don't know, Apple or Google or something, you know?
If they ever went under, would you put in a bid to buy them?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
of
Heck
course,
yeah.
we'd never get it. Like,
No,
some-
I put a bid. Just
'cause,
to
like-
say I put in a bid for Disney?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, like I'd kick them $100 and be like,
Hey man, take it or leave it.
Yeah, look.
It's on the table. It's
You're
standing
not
right
doing
there.
so well on your own here. You
let
kind
me
of need.
help you out.
You need a helping hand.
And that's me being generous.
Yeah. Okay. It's like don't. That's your final offer because in about 10 seconds I'm taking $20 out of it. So.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I want the rights to Steamboat Willie.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
Oh yeah.
Let me answer your question first, though.
I know where that's going.
Excuse me. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. I really
don't think they will?
I don't think they will go under.
Really?
No. Do I think they're gonna restructure in a year and get their life in order? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll come back. They need to.
They lost to Universal this year.
They did.
They lost to freaking Universal.
And this is the same company that brought us such hits as
Wish?
The Cat in the Hat.
Oh god.
Yeah, The Cat in the Hat movie.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like the Ang Lee Hulk film. You know, like it's. I'm with you. I'm disappointed, but they need a swift kick in the groin to get back in order. They're paying attention. Money talks. Okay, they know that their female-led movie about superheroes that had a budget set to, they thought they were gonna make $1 billion off of it.
Yeah.
Lost like $200 million. Like
Right.
I don't know. Money talks. I think they're gonna have to change something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was so bad that they fired everyone who was working on Daredevil and rehired and just replaced them because it wasn't working out. They knew it was gonna suck. They were watching it like, okay, people hate She-Hulk. Well, Daredevil is gonna have the same tone as She-Hulk, so we're gonna have to redo it and try to make it more like the Netflix special.
Wow,
So,
it's like what we should have done with reverse.
I know, but I think they're trying to course correct. Will it work? I don't know.
I mean, do you think all of their bad ideas are just catching up with them and they
Yes.
already planned them all out?
Yes.
Or they're just going to make like 5 or 6 more bad decisions before they actually change their mind?
I think they're actually finally starting to restructure. They still have to let Snow White come out because that movie's basically done. Okay.
They might just can it.
They're not going to can it, bro.
I mean, the Batwoman movie got canned. Like, I know that's not on the same tier, but like, that's happened before.
In order to can Snow White, they would have to admit that they did wrong. They'd have to admit that they got a spoiled 19-year-old to get under their skin and to ruin a movie. I don't think you understand the lengths that companies will go to always appear like they're in a position.
Well, then at the very least, they might remake it.
That's too much money. The movie's already not going to do well.
Then what's like legitimately? I would say there are some situations before where it actually would be potentially a bigger loss to release a movie like that.
You think so?
Publicity wise, yes. For bad publicity, really bad publicity. Like legitimately, that's why the Batwoman movie didn't come out. It was finished, completely finished, 100% ready to go out.
It got cut because of tax purposes. The new guy they hired, who put James Gunn in charge, saw Batgirl and was like, "Okay, we're not even going," because it had a bunch of stuff in it that would have taken the franchise in a new direction.
Yeah,
they were scrapping that whole universe. They were done with Zack Snyder's original vision. The Flash wasn't getting a sequel. Michael Keaton's not coming back as Batman. He was supposed to be in it as Batman. So tax purposes, just boom, just write it off.
yeah.
And that's what happened.
This might be this. I feel like this might be a similar situation.
We
haven't been given like a date or anything like hey,
Right.
this is when it's coming out.
Well, have you seen the interviews Rachel Ziegler's doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean,
She's literally legitimately like just like stabbing.
She did a 180.
Stabbing. Oh, did she?
Yeah.
She cleaned up.
Yeah, so she did one with the girl that played Ariel in Little Mermaid, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I love the Snow White story."
Oh, did you now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. Like she
wow.
did a 180 on what she said the initial time.
She got taken in the back room.
Yes,
with
and
the
told
mouse.
like you got to shut the heck up. So the approach is delay the movie a year. Yes, you're right. I don't think there's a release date yet. But they delayed it a year, and now they took a break. They told her to quit talking, and now she's coming back allegedly about a year before the movie's supposed to come out, and they're having her backtrack. Now she's a fan of Snow White.
Wow.
Now she likes the original.
Oh, my favorite
tropes.
princess.
Yeah.
No, I loved sleeping in a coffin and being.
Yeah, I love being stalked by a prince. You know what I mean? Like it's like they would really have to. Now Batgirl's different because they had a vision. It wasn't working out, so they're trying to go a different direction. They hired a new CEO. Like no, Disney's Everything's the same. Bob Iger is so much the same. They hired Bob Iger back. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Kathleen Kennedy's still in charge of Star Wars.
Yep.
Star Wars. Kevin Feige's still in charge of Marvel. They would have to admit that they messed up, and they won't. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, no, Snow White's coming out. I promise you that it's coming out. If I'm wrong, then let this clip go viral.
Yeah.
And I'm going viral for the wrong reasons.
Okay. If you're,
But I'm that confident. I'm sorry.
All right.
A lot of people are like,
if you're right, we're going to go to the theaters to watch the Snow White movie.
That's not a prize.
I didn't want this.
Let me close out. I brought up Steamboat Willie earlier.
Yeah. So speaking of decisions by Disney,
We got copyright claimed by
our first one.
Well, not our first one. I posted a video of me feeding a giraffe at the zoo, and I used the theme song from Monk, the original one, and we got copyrighted. Now, it's not a copyright strike. It's just like we can't. If we were to monetize our channel, we couldn't monetize those videos.
Everything's owned by Monk now.
Yeah, for real. This shit is sponsored by Monk, and he pokes our thing. However, so they have, I want to say, 3 more days to beat my appeal. So in that short, which a lot of you were so kind and said, "Don't you have a job to go to, Skippy?" Did you see those?
Oh yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, those were funny. I don't mean to prematurely respond to hate mail, but the guy's like, "Don't you have a job to go to, Skippy?" And I was just like, "Not until 4."
Yeah, that was good.
So anyway, yeah. So we got copyright claimed immediately. Of course, the owners, public domain, being Disney. So I appealed it. They have 3 days to fight my appeal. Now, if they fight my appeal, YouTube's algorithm is going to screw it up, and we'll actually have a copyright claim. And it is what it is. And I'll have learned my lesson. But yes, they have 3 days. If they do nothing, though, I believe it just gets dropped.
Yeah,
and we're fine.
Probably.
So, hey. Steamboat Willie, public domain, except for us.
Yeah.
We're the rare exception. Do you think we'd have a case, though, to sue Disney if they wouldn't release the claim? It would be a small claims court for sure, but do you think it would work out?
I mean, like, it's Disney.
Yeah.
The most powerful lawyers on earth. Like, just, I don't know.
Do you think they would cancel Snow White before they released our copyright claims?
Dude, I think until Disney's last dollar, they're going to hold on to this claim. They're going to monetize every last dollar that we ever make.
Yeah, every last penny.
Now, on the flip side, they may already making a Mickey Mouse horror film. They already released the trailer the day one launch.
That movie's gonna suck.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like that's going to be the next few years. Everything's going to go public domain. Batman's going to public domain. Superman's going to public domain in a few years. Like,
I want to see a happy Batman. I want to see what they take with it and make him where, you know what?
You mean?
I'm going to move on from my parents dying, and I'm going to go fight crime as a lawyer.
I'm pretty sure that's what the first Batman iteration was. Adam West. I don't think he was ever sad.
He still fought crime. I'm talking like
you mean like
the opposite of dark and gritty Batman.
That's
take it, go public domain.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so enthralled. I mean, like, to be fair, 90% of his villains probably wouldn't even exist.
Right. He'd create new enemies.
Through friendship.
Through friendship. The power of friendship.
Oh, boy.
Well,
meanwhile, Robin's still on the street starving.
We're out of time today. I think I can cut it down and still get it to about an hour. But, guys, thanks for joining us this week. Thank you, Chaps, for meeting in the new studio. I hope you liked it. I know this sounds different, but I think it's something we'll get used to. And I will learn to lean into the mic more when I speak. So, all right. Thanks for joining us this week, guys. We will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.